Hey everyone, I'm Eric. This is Gary. We are Cedar Culture. Today we're going to be talking about some parenting myths while smoking a Flux Capacitor by Nomad.
Are you telling me Nomad put out an Ezra Zion cigar? That's heavy, Eric. But my mom's got the hots for me? Man. Hey everybody, welcome back to our podcast. Like Eric said, we are going to be smoking the Nomad Ezra Zion Flux Capacitor. It is a skinny Toro, a 6x5 by 46, and Nicaraguan origin, chocolatey Colorado leaf, and mystery filler and binder.
This is another one of those. This is their thing, though, right? This is their thing that they're doing constantly. Ezra Zion. I don't know. I know they're a parent company in Nomad. I don't know if they had bought it or if they started it. I want to say they bought it, and it seems like what they kind of do is through Ezra Zion might be some a little bit more of their formal releases, and they do like wacky off the wall kind of stuff. It seems to be through the Nomad brand. If that's what they're going for, nailed it. If not, my apologies. But
and it kind of fits our profile perfectly because we are not only cigar guys, we are pop culture guys, we're movie guys, we're music guys. So it really hits home.
One of the worst or best things I ever did was signing up for their text alerts.
I just did that today.
For Nomad?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's awesome. And as you know, I buy a lot of them. And it's one of those things where I am the guy where they put really dumb stuff in the checkout aisle. And you look at it and you're like, well, who buys that? Like, I'm the guy that buys that, right?
No,
so,
yeah, definitely.
So when I'm getting this text message, it's the same kind of concept, and it's very difficult to not buy all of them. And they release them so regularly. And for anybody that's not familiar with them, the whole shtick of the releases essentially is they're almost all super limited. This one, I wrote it down, 370 sticks were made.
It's crazy to think about.
Yeah, and it is a little bit of a shtick to it, right? Every single one of the releases, they say this was going to be a full release, but we didn't have enough, and that whole game. But that's marketing, and we all kind of know that.
And
Eyes wide open today, and it works because I buy them all the time. I've had this Flux Capacitor before, Gary. You haven't.
I have not. I'm very excited.
Let's cut it up a little bit. But before we do, I learned a fact today that I wanted to share with you.
Oh boy.
Do you know where the phrase "close but no cigar" comes from?
I believe I do.
Really?
I think I know.
Well,
wasn't it before, like either during Prohibition or during times they couldn't give things away like prizes? And okay, I always thought they gave like cigars out as like a carnival game or something. Is that where it was? Maybe I'm combining two stories.
Maybe, yeah. So it was like a carnival game in carnival games in general, and like if you were close, you got to knock 10 bowling pins down, and you only knock 9 or whatever. It's close, but you didn't win the cigar. Yeah. Close but no cigar. I thought that was wild.
Isn't that cool?
Like just weird. And
kids were winning cigars.
I don't know. And the
like
other
the Charlie
thing,
Brown characters.
The other thing, I mean, it's kind of like an unverified thing, but it's also seems to be common knowledge that that's the true story. But what's it was interesting to me is that it was in like the 1900s. Like it wasn't. I don't know, in the 1800s or 1700s. Right. It was. I don't know. It was like I feel like my grandfather could have gone to a carnival and won a cigar,
and he probably did.
Which is which is crazy, which is cool. We talk about times changing quickly all the time. So this one too is really interesting. I've smoked this. You've not smoked this.
Really
You're super excited.
Forward to this.
So I should just stop talking. Let's
no. Go ahead.
Light this guy up. And I also want to play another little different game today too. I stopped looking at my paper.
I'm not.
So what I did was I wrote down every tasting note that Ezra Zion Nomad for the first third, second third, and last third, and I'm gonna randomly throughout. I'm gonna be like, hey, do you taste this in it? And it might be something that they listed. It might be something they didn't list.
Oh man.
And then. But also,
let's make Gary look like an idiot.
Yes,
Which
exactly.
really, you have to do anything different.
I definitely don't need notes to do, but
just talk to me for a few minutes.
I'm really excited to have this again. I mean,
the dry draw was real chocolatey, super chocolatey. I was telling Eric as he was talking about the limited release in the 370 cigars, and I said, my luck, I'm going to fall in love with it and be like, oh, that's the only one you'll ever smoke in your entire life.
I know. Luckily, this one, So I have, obviously, as Gary knows, I have a very big Back to the Future tattoo. It goes from below my elbow all the way up to my neck, so up over the shoulder and around the back and everything.
It's pretty heavy.
It's pretty heavy, Doc. So we'll
Doc.
throw some pictures up, I don't know, on Instagram and
Definitely.
And maybe in this video too. We'll throw them in there a little bit. After we're done filming here, I'll get naked. Gary will take some pictures, put them on the internet.
Part of us, we were thinking, do we go Bert Kreischer and just go shirtless? So you tell us.
We'll save that. We'll save that for the OnlyFans page. People got to pay for that. So, all right, let's. A lot of times we like to stick, Gary, and I feel like it really has to develop before we have anything to say about it. But I know, just in the light, I'm like tasting things already. How about you?
Absolutely. I said the dry draw was super chocolatey, super like candy chocolatey, dry draw.
All right, so according to Nomad, there is chocolate in each third, but it's a different type of chocolate that they have listed for each third. So what kind of chocolate are you getting in the first third?
I want to say like a dark chocolate.
Nope, that's the last third, you idiot.
Damn.
The first third is chocolate truffles. But no, to be fair,
isn't truffles mushrooms?
No, chocolate truffles are like those little ball things that they make. I don't. Yeah, I know what you mean, but I don't know.
I'm on keto. That's not fair.
But yeah, how am I supposed to know? No, so it's But I actually get that. Like, I would have never guessed chocolate truffle, but on that light, I did get
like
a
milk
punch of
dud or a or a what's the not milk but duds like a malted ball.
Yeah. So to be fair, I'm gonna call that a win for Nomad. They say chocolate truffles. If you're saying like malted milk, well, I mean that's pretty stinking close. So that's in there. So good job. And
Nice.
I get a lot of that too.
Really enjoyable.
Some of the other things that they list on their site, like the creamed honey, definitely not something I would have named or pulled out, but I get it. Like, it's like confectioners and chocolate taste.
And it is, for what it is, for the darker wrapper, it's creamy. I would say the smoke is creamy.
Yeah.
Like it's a silky,
which is right up my alley for sure. All right, so we'll let the flavors develop in the first third a little bit. We'll get back to that.
Quiz each other.
But so we're talking today about parenting myths, right? And we're going to attack it from kind of two angles. So Gary is a parent of 3, and I am a parent of 0. And so the way we decide we're going to kind of talk about it is Gary's going to talk a little bit about, and there'll be some conversation through it, but Gary's going to talk a little bit about some things you learned, right? Is that what it like?
Yeah, things I learned, maybe things I wish I knew before being, not that I wish I knew, but things that I didn't expect or things that I would pass on to new parents or possibly going to be new parents. That kind
and then I'm going to tell you how to parent.
Please.
And then you're going to tell me how big of an idiot and how wrong I am.
We need help. My wife and I joke all the time. We were amazing parents before we had kids.
Exactly.
We'd be at the restaurant, like, we would never do that. Never in a million years. And now we're like, okay, let's do that. That's going to work.
So to kick us off on that topic, really where this topic came from, where we got the idea for it was you were, you've talked before, even on these episodes, about how on Tuesdays you take the kids to practice and on Thursdays Allie does.
Right.
But you stay there and watch the practice.
Mm-hmm.
And so does she, right?
Yeah.
And what I had said to you was I noticed that most friends that I have that have kids, they do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like they not only take their kids to practice, but they actually stay and watch the whole practice. And I played sports all growing up, and I never saw that. I won't say never. A couple kids.
It wasn't a thing.
But it was not a thing at all. Like not even close. I mean,
maybe
in fact,
if my dad had to do paperwork, like he wouldn't be watching. He would sit in the car.
But generally speaking, like parents are trying to trade duties with other parents on who's driving the kids, right? Like trying to kind of it's practice. Like it's important for the players. It's not really important for the parents. My parents were at every game.
Not a game.
Yeah, my parents were at every game, and that was like an awesome culture. I was on the same lacrosse team for 7 years, and so it was the same parents, and it's great. Cool. But the practices, that was odd to me, and I asked you, is it really common? And I don't know.
It's a culture. I mean, I would say.
Would you be looked down on if you didn't attend practice? And I'm just curious about it because it's just different.
I guess because of the age group we are too. Because I wonder how it changes, like in true middle school and into high school. I'm assuming the parents aren't there. But my oldest is 9, and I mean, I would say 40 to 60% of the parents are there. But as you get younger, that number grows. Like Marshalls, like the kindergarten kids, everyone's there.
And I always wondered. So you and I have talked before too about the idea of just generations getting weaker. Like, does that play into it? Like, I don't know. Like, I can't even go to practice because we know, and I mean, you played sports at a high level, and like your coach can become your like second father in a lot of ways. I wonder if this almost stunts that bond in a way. That the parents are
I
there.
definitely see it could interfere because I helped out coaching all three of my kids, and I am not a soccer guy, but I promised the kids I'd be their first coaches. Like, I'm that sappy dad, and plus the township needed help. But I'd noticed like it's harder to be firm with a kid in today's day and age when the parents are and everyone has a camera. Like, it's very, very, like, everyone's phone could be recording you, being that coach that flips out on a 7-year-old.
Well, I ask because it's funny, and I suppose it's more of a amusing than anything else. But I think people our age and definitely our parents' generation talk a lot about that concept of kids getting weaker. Kids are weaker today. Kids don't know what it's like to work for money today. Those kind of things. But is it not by design? Like, it feels by design because I know even my parents, they ran a pretty tight ship at home. More closer to like an old school way of that. Certainly than things are today. But even then, they always wanted like better for me, right? And were steering me towards academics. I did my share of work and chores and all that, but nonetheless, like, academics were always first. Like, just kind of always pushing towards that direction.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. And then you have kids that are graduating college now that are upset because there's no jobs for them, and is it just this false bill of goods that we sell kids and build this really comfortable life for them?
Yeah.
It actually sets them up to fail.
I almost think it's a lot of factors, but that weaker generation then becomes the parent teaching the next generation of weaker.
Then they just get weaker.
Exactly. I almost feel like the links of the chain. I was working with a high school student today, and literally even just basic facts of who was president during the Civil War. Mm-hmm. He's like, Roosevelt? I don't know.
Right.
Like, just like little things. Like, we're just separating so far, like how we talked about politics in an earlier episode. I think our parents were more aware of politics, or at least where they stood. And I'm sure it was easier to follow then, too. So there's so many factors that go into it. We talk about technology and kids getting softer, but they're being raised by the softer generation. It's hard.
So how do you ever, I mean, you're in academics, right? So you see things, so you're in a position to kind of, I don't know, see a lot of kids and see just, I guess, a lot of styles of parenting or whatever, what have you.
That's true.
But do you ever are you ever personally conflicted? Because you're being a parent now, we're talking about this sort of phenomenon where everybody's raising kids that are weaker than their generation, but I'm sure you're probably actively participating in it too. And your kids probably have it easier than you did when you were younger.
100%.
And so do you ever feel conflicted in that? Like,
we struggle all the time.
We look at other people's kids and we judge, but then probably do the same to our own.
And I almost feel privileged in a way of working in academics and working with families, because I always said I could steal from this family and make sure I never do that, because I kind of see the outcome of where that leads to. But I think Allie and I struggle to have that balance of having the kids experience discomfort and still, living life in 2020. Like, I feel like for some reason the kids on our block think we're like the strict house. But I always say we're not the strict house. Where if you say you're going to do something, you do it. Mm-hmm. If you're going to do it, you do it to the best of your ability. Like, to try to plant those seeds in them. Care about others, just as much as you would yourself. But then, as much as I think we're viewed in that light, when you come to our house, most of the time the neighbors are in our backyard playing.
Right.
So, like, yeah, we can be, I don't want to use the word strict, but
work hard, play hard.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think our kids are well-rounded and balanced, because of that. But we'll definitely get into it when we talk more about the topic, because it's interesting to see as they grow, like, what is in them versus what we try to put in them. Like, I think it's very different than what I thought.
Well, with like because I always wonder, without having kids, that nature versus nurture kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Is that something you actually want to talk about? Or
that's the absolute first thing that I wrote down when we were talking about this topic. And even before I left the house today, I was like, "Hey, babe, we're going to talk about this." And she was like, "That it came out of her mouth too."
Is it?
So I wonder. I'd love to hear from parents too to see what they feel like the nature versus nurture.
And you have like, as far as having kids go, like you have a larger sample size. Like having 3 kids, I'm assuming is on the higher end of average or like above average. For right? The average household has like 1.7 kids. Or
right.
Whatever.
You're probably right. I think
so. So you have a, relatively speaking, you have a huge sample size on that topic. So before we dance into that, we're like into the first third here on the stick, and I'm curious, what you're thinking about it. For me, that initial we're still very much in the first third. We're still very early, but now that the first third's opened up a little bit, some of that sweetness and kind of chocolatey honey actually subdued for me. What about you?
It lasted for a while, but I'm starting to get some more pepper. But I still get this weird confectionery sweetness. It's not a sweetness in the cap. It's not a sweetness, but I get like whether it's caramely, candied, but like the tobacco. I'm just getting that sweetness out of the tobacco, and it's really, really enjoyable.
So one of the things that they have listed for the first third is sweet tea. So that could be that combination of like sweet and still that tobacco kind of earthy.
Put it on the board.
I'm gonna give you a win.
Circle gets a square.
I'm gonna give you a win for that one. I'm never gonna forgive you for the dark chocolate remark, but
I'll work double duty.
But
really good, just good, smooth, but like flavorful. And the last few sticks I've grabbed out of my humidor, I remember texting you saying really enjoyable but steady throughout. And even within the first third, I'm getting changes. So it's not even that first third to second third. It's first inch to second inch. Like within that first third, I'm getting a lot of changes.
And now this is a skinny Toro.
Yeah, skinnier than I usually.
It's a little skinnier.
Almost like Lancero.
It's closer to it.
I get a Lancero feeling.
It is, because it's also, they call it a skinny Toro, but it's also longer than a Toro. Typically, right, by a half inch.
Maybe this is just what they call their Lanceros?
It might be, because that does, I don't know the exact dimensions of a Lancero off the top of my head, but if it's skinnier than a Toro and longer than a Toro, maybe it is. So one thing that they do have listed that I'm not getting, though, so much of at least, is black pepper. Like now that I say it, I'm like, oh yeah, I taste a little spice, but
I don't taste.
I wouldn't call it spicy. I wouldn't call it spicy.
Yeah, I don't get pepper. I wouldn't say pepper, but I understand what you're saying with the spice. But I'm just enjoying the ride of this first third because literally, it was that chocolate. I'm not getting chocolate at all anymore. I'm getting that sweet. I'll reference in sweet tea just because they said it. It makes me sound smarter. But I get that confectionery sweetness off of the tobacco leaf itself, and
so you're still pretty sweet. But really what about the chocolate? I'm not. I like that.
No, chocolate's gone.
Chocolate. All right, so
love the color of the wrapper though. It's a beautiful stick. Ezra Zion, for this one specifically, the wrapper is pretty much the
length of the stick.
95% of the stick.
Yeah, so you got to take.
So
it
I didn't even know what it looked like, but in taking it off, really, really beautiful appearance.
They wrap their sticks really well too. Like when you buy bundles of 5, the packaging that it comes in. If I think of it, I'll throw an image of that in here too. Because I have
the cone.
This one I did buy the 2 fivers of. I normally buy one of their stuff, but 2 fivers because of the relation to the tattoo.
Oh, you got 10 of these.
Yeah,
nice.
Because of the relation to the tattoo.
Very good.
I decided I wanted to hold on to
I'm trying to do the math in my head. You own like 1/37
That's true.
Of the sticks ever made.
That's a good point.
You're like a shareholder.
Well, you know what's interesting that I've noticed?
Eric Zion.
There's companies, and I don't know, I haven't done a lot of research on it, but from what I've seen, there's a couple companies that whenever I see Nomad release one of their special releases, they sell out within a couple hours. And then the next day I'll see, or at some point I'll see them on the secondary market, but through...
I'm so glad you said that.
I would almost call it through the primary market because they're like online retailers. I'm so glad
you said that because everything I see sold out by there, I've found on another site roughly the same price. $2,
a little bit
$3
higher.
more.
Yeah, $2, $3,
but like not
$1 to $3 more. I agree. I know that today.
It's not like scalping a ticket and then you're getting from $200 to $700.
100% because they're doing these limited batches. Right. Their fivers normally cost $60, so like $12 a stick. And I saw one on a website.
66 or $67, I think it was.
I was gonna say I saw a single and it was. So instead of $12, I think it was 13 and change.
Probably saw the same site. I screenshotted it to show you. That's cool.
But let's put your degree to use. You have a master's in school psychology, and you have 3 kids. Let's talk a little bit about the nature versus nurture concept. I'm curious, what you expected and what you learned.
So I think what we expected is that our kids are going to be born as like a blank canvas, and through life and experience and some of that DNA, we were going to be able to shape them and say, don't be this way, be this way. Do that, but don't do this. And I feel like what we got as our kids are getting older, oldest is 9, middle is 7, youngest is about to turn 6, is that they are born who they are. Like, I mean, I can only speak in expertise terms on my own 3 kids because I've lived with them day in and day out. But all the research I've done in studying and that nature versus nurture phenomenon in the psychology world, I'm kind of crumpling it up and throwing it away because I'm watching these 3 personalities develop. And like my daughter was who she was at 3 months old. Determined, strong-willed, daredevil, like just that's her.
Yeah.
My youngest, who was born a month early and had to spend almost 2 weeks in the NICU, we think attributed to just, he's the kid we could be like, hey, we're going to go take a family walk around the block. He's like, no, I'm staying home. I'm good. At 6.
Yeah.
He's the glue that holds us together. He's the calm in the storm. And that's how he was when he came home from the hospital. My oldest, if he dropped something, would start bawling when he was an infant. Wears his heart on his sleeve to this day. Like someone was bullying his sister. He was getting frustrated just talking about it, got him upset, and he started crying. But not like wuss crying, but like his emotions. No. Wears the emotions on
wuss crying, and then you're going to show this video to his first girlfriend. No, I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean too when it comes to like strong men. Like you get, it's happened
okay
to me.
To cry.
It's I mean, it's definitely okay to cry, but I know what you mean. Even like that kind of strong cry, like when you're actually so like when you want to come to your sister's honor or
passion. He was he wouldn't stop. He would like that's he dude, wasn't. Almost sounds like my Michael J. Fox impression.
I was drunk at my welcome home party when I got out of the Marine Corps, and like a relative's boyfriend at the time like took a 4-wheeler off into the woods, wasted, like whole big thing, like crashed it into a tree, gashed his hand open. Four of us had to go into the woods, shit faced, and carry this thing out God. like at like 11 o'clock at night. It was a terrible thing. And I come back inside, like, I'm fresh out of Marine Corps at this point, and I'm like all drunk. I'm back home, and I'm like raging, like I want to find this guy. He's already at the hospital because he gashed his hand, but I'm like trying to find him, and then I'm like yelling to my mom just how mad I am, and then I started like getting choked up, and I'm like, I'm supposed to be a tough 23-year-old.
Well, and I think especially then, like those emotions are so closely linked. It's like your passion, so it's like that love and fear, like at the same time. And as a dad, I experience it all the time. A lot of the time, something will happen to the kids. You're like, Dad, I fell off the trampoline, and you were yelling. I was like, I wasn't yelling in anger. I was yelling out of like, my kids. Like, A, I told you not to do that. B, like, I don't want to see you get hurt. Like watching you guys get hurt is really difficult. So sometimes, and my thing I always say is like, daddies sometimes yell means they're afraid too.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't always mean mad.
Okay.
So just in terms that they could understand.
Yeah.
Sometimes I would tell Allie too.
I would say I'm learning a lot from me when you yell at me. Like sometimes it just means you're afraid.
I only whoops you because I love you.
So you're saying the nature versus nurture thing, they're born with it, which kind of honestly from a non-parent that checks out to me too. Like I've often seen, well, I guess I'm old enough now that I've come around on the whole concept. I think when you're like a young adult, in your 20s and you don't have kids, I think you might look at kids crying at the grocery store and things like that and really judge the parents hard.
You think you're going to be able to outwit that.
Right.
I will never get him Tic Tacs on the way out.
Yeah, exactly. Now at 37, I'm smart enough, even though I don't have kids, I'm smart enough to know that I would just fall into the same trap that every parent does, because like every parent does.
Because you also have a life to live. Like we have these 3 lives. Like I see my wife juggling, like I said, her job, the kids are at home. And I think it's shown me that we're blurring the lines now between teacher and parent. Like, you know what I mean? So now I want to be their parent, but I see my daughter struggle even more not to get the answer wrong in front of me. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm putting just my presence putting this stressor on there.
And that's true. It's weird, but that is true in the business world. It's true in the business world from like employees to their manager. Mm-hmm. Like that idea of, that concept of kind of not wanting to let your boss, mentor, parent, whatever down, and
especially if you're passionate about
it's something that I even struggled with, like as like learning management and like growing in like leadership. when certain employees like almost feel bad about doing something. I'm not even mad at them for it, or maybe they messed up on something, or they're just, maybe they didn't mess up on anything. Maybe I told them they did a great job, but they felt so much pressure to do a great job just because I was there, even though I was being encouraging. And sometimes, like that being there, that is it's so much pressure. But we're kind of winding away a little bit now. But on the nature and nurture thing, I was going to say that for me, kind of still not having kids, but getting older and learning, and I used to think that I remember being younger and thinking that if there was a shitty kid, that it was probably shitty parenting.
Yeah.
But then getting older and observing a little bit more and seeing maybe parents that have multiple kids, and maybe they have like one shitty kid and two really good kids, and you're like what do they? No, they didn't change parenting necessarily for one or the other. Like,
and let me ask you this question: do you see traits in yourself now that you can directly link back and be like, man, like 5-6-year-old Eric, like I could kind of see that emergence of that.
I mean, I definitely
handling stress or anything like that.
I don't know. I'll have to get back to on that. Not off the top of my head, but I definitely see characteristics in me from like my mom and from my grandparents.
Wow.
Even from my grandparents,
That's
that
cool.
kind of carry through. Like I'm just taking a view of my family and seeing like my grandfather's temper is in like most of my family, like that side of my family. And it's a weird temper though that we have, because it's like we're all really like sweet people and like really, really kind and nice, and then have this odd, weird, like when the switch is like when in this moment of frustration, that
and I would say for you, knowing you, really it's hard to hit that switch, but I think once it's hit, because I think we both have mutual people we know that we're like, there's still negative feelings and negative thoughts because like that flip.
I'm not even talking about that though. I'm talking about like just the in the moment frustration of like just getting short when like you're frustrated with something. Like when we had camera issues last week, and just getting like super
That's why I had to have makeup on this side of my face to cover my black eye.
But no, that totally checks out. That makes sense. As a non-parent, I'll concur that definitely you can do your best to raise your kids. But beyond even the nature part, even, we're saying what we're kind of concluding among us, very scientific study we just did, that nature is the driving force. But then even on the nurture side, your kids are spending 2/3 of their time at school and 1/3 of the time at home. Yeah. So you're still fighting a losing battle on nurture.
Yeah. And I think the part that nurture does help with is I think the kids are born with a propensity or they may lean towards this way. And I think the environment they grow up can either hinder it or push it forward. Just even things like, you talk about temper. That's how I know things like alcoholism and drug dependency and all that stuff. Like that's there. You can see that lineage. Like you said, you trace generations. I'm sure that temper thing has been on that lineage. And don't say that as a joke.
No, it's true. Like it's that my grandfather's like French Cajun, like from Louisiana, and German, and like that is like a trait.
It's when you grow up on a swamp. You can be
pretty much
at everything. There's an alligator in your front porch. I'd be upset too,
dude. And when you talk about like growing up in a swamp, like his hometown is this little town called Chalmette, and people from there are called Chalmatians. And
they're also spotted.
And like the thing is, when Katrina hit, going back to Katrina, I remember like my mom saying that from that portion of the family that kind of like was still in that, they were like, yeah, like part of that family just got wiped out. Like we don't know, like they're just they probably didn't even have phones anyway, and they're so extended family that we don't talk to them anyway.
It's crazy.
But it's just like that is that rural. Yeah.
I'm not saying this to be like me. Like I have the swamp people like view in my head, but I love that show. Those guys are badass.
It is kind of that lifestyle. And I've been down there for family reunion and stuff.
Oh, I want to go.
Been down a couple times, and they actually do.
Shop down there.
Well, they do like swamp tours down there.
Yeah.
And it's cool. You go out in this like swamp boat thing.
The fan on it.
No, it had a motor. No, because it was bigger.
Okay.
I was pretty young. But then what the guy will do, the captain guy, captain of the swamp, swamp captain, will he'll get like he'll hold like chicken out and stuff like over the side so that alligators will come up.
Completely safe.
Yeah, I mean he laughs about it, and he's having a good old time, and
If the swamp captain says it's safe, it's
swamp
safe.
Captain says it's safe. But now,
you ever have fried alligator?
Really, I did. Yeah, like
Good.
on a skewer. Yeah, that was good. And then I'll kind of wrap this up, this segment up, by just letting you know that if you can't make it down there, but you just have a hankering for the swamp, you can go on Etsy and buy Louisiana swamp water in a mason jar on Etsy. I came across it like a couple weeks ago.
When's
and I was looking for something. Yeah, it's back ordered. It's damn COVID. The swamp got COVID, and now it's back ordered.
The COVID's even hitting the swamp cabinet.
So I'm, we'll kind of take a step away and finish this first third before we come back and talk about the second third. But before I do, I'll just ask. I'm not noticing any changes, on the back end of the first third from what we were talking about in the middle of the first.
No, it actually stayed pretty steady. Still getting those pepper notes, but damn delicious. Really, really enjoying it.
Definitely agree. So let's hit the second third here. All right, bud, we're deep into the second third now. How you feeling about the stick? What are you tasting? Has anything developed from where we wrapped up the first third?
I really, really like where the second third is going.
It's spiced up for me.
See, it's so funny. I was hitting spice at the end of the first third, and now I'm getting this weird marshmallowy, I don't want to say coconut, but like a toasted or roasted marshmallow. But like not sweet, not that artificial syrupy sweetness, but that's what I'm getting. And the smoke is creamy, so I'm getting that like fluff almost.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe we're off by a third somehow. So literally in the last third, they have toasted marshmallow listed.
I'm getting it right.
But you're getting in the second third. I'm not getting that. What I am getting, they have listed. I definitely did not peg this as cardamom, but I'm like, it's something that they listed. It's just a spice. You can smell
like
it.
Star of Anise.
No, it's different than Star of Anise. Although they do have licorice listed here for second, third, and that is,
you know what? Now that you put the thought in my head, I could see, and not the dark black licorice, but like just that licoricey flavor, like a light licorice,
like a wet licorice kiss.
Yes. Sure. And it's funny. Like I filled up a little bit. I was doing cream soda the first third, and now I'm doing a little bit of Dr. Pepper mixed in with the cream soda. Ooh. I don't know if that's. I get a little crazy.
A little creamy doctor.
That's me, buddy. Creamy Doc was my nickname in college. It wasn't, but I wish it was. No, but really, the marshmallow and a little bit of nuttiness, but really like mellow. So it's funny that pepper that you're getting. Like I had that. Remember I was telling you, like I'm getting it on the retrohale, and it was kind of lingering. Yeah,
I'm getting it a little bit now. Not crazy. Nothing. I wouldn't call this peppery as a stick, but I'm just getting a little tooth, a little bite on it now. See, in a good way.
I'm getting like just mellow mallow. That's kind of what I'm getting. I'm getting toasted marshmallow. I'm getting nuts, and I'm getting some cream, and it's good.
All right. Well, we're racing to the end of the second third here.
I know, I don't want
so
to
let's jump into another topic, and then we'll come bounce back for the last third.
Sure. So kind of when we talked about this topic in general, one of the things that kept recurring in my head, and I didn't know how I would kind of talk about it and what I would even say, is just that what I wasn't prepared for in parenthood. Probably number 9,999, but the different relationships that you kind of have with each child, and how their roles are kind of different within the family.
Dude, I'm definitely all right. So I'll just throw in one thing before you keep going, which is now you say that when some parents will say that they don't have favorites, some parents will say that they do have favorites. I'm certainly not going to ask you if you have a favorite on something that's going to be documented on the internet.
I have a favorite, but oddly enough, it's none of my kids. Someone else's kid. That's always our joke because our kids ask.
Do they?
Say, who's your favorite kid? I go, oh, you don't know him. His name's Tommy. He lives down the road. What?
That's awesome. That's good. That's a good response.
How do you answer that?
You can't. No. You answer just like that. That's perfect. And since I don't have kids now, I'll say if I ever do have kids, I would absolutely have a favorite. I think, but that might be a misconception. That might be
I guess you're. But you know
for
what's
not
funny?
having kids, but
in a weird way, like I wouldn't say my
I'm
favorite.
Human.
You are human,
and I think it's a human thing.
But I think other parents may be able to understand what I'm saying, and it may be more difficult for someone who's not a parent. But maybe think of it in terms of your friends or different things. Like my oldest, I have the most history with. Like we have 9 years where my youngest.
It's also more arguments.
More arguments,
right? Like he's older to where he can talk back more than the youngest, maybe.
No, that's very true. but it's still the longer relationship. It's like in a way, but that doesn't make
You've
it
been
better.
through some shit. You've seen some shit together.
No, it's
yeah.
I would. That's what I would say. And it may be weird that my wife and I have had this conversation, but like some nights over some cigars, coffee, and wine, we'll kind of say like, in this weird apocalyptic setting, which one child would you want with you? Because it's different.
Oh,
if I'm on a desert island, I want my oldest. He can help me do more work.
Do stuff. He's a moose.
If we had to hide from somewhere, I love my daughter to death, but she would. Is the person gone? Are they gone? Did they go? Did they go? Give us away. I love her. I would give my life, for her.
Yeah, of course.
But in different scenarios, it's going to be different kids. If I need someone small and able to get through something, my youngest. You know what I mean? So it's weird. So
that's funny.
We don't have the conversation often. I don't want to sound like a crazy parent that's like that, but we've had one or two conversations where, in a weird situation, who would you want with you?
Do you ever talk to your wife about who your favorite wife is?
Yeah, and it's funny. Like, I'm her least favorite husband. Like, it's just weird. Always. But so the relationship with the child, and then how it changes your relationship with each other. Because now it's just not my wife; she's mom.
Dude, let's hit that. We'll keep going on what we were just talking about. But I'm definitely curious too, like how it changes the marriage, right? So, I mean, some couples use having a kid to save the marriage. Mm-hmm. Some couples don't.
You know what? It's funny. As a parent, I can see how it can either strengthen or weaken a marriage.
Well, that's the thing. And so what I would imagine is that here's how I see it, having not gone through that. It would be that you're married, you're in love, you're having a kid because it's the right decision for the family, and you're ready for it, and you have a kid, and then life just gets harder in general, and it takes some kind of toll on the marriage. And then maybe you have another kid too in there. And so roughly 20 or so years later, when both your kids are in college or doing their own thing or whatever, you hope you made it that long. Mm-hmm. And you hope then by that time when like that, all that crazy drama of raising kids is gone, now you and your wife you've seen some shit together. Mm-hmm. You've been in the trenches together, and then you're stronger than ever, but the battle is making it to there. Just again, it's just observation, right? Like it's a coin toss or something like that. They say. I think
if you'd ask my wife, she would agree that parenting and marriage, it's work. It's great work, but it's still work. Like, I think back to when you and I talked about doing this. It's work. It's fun work, but it's work. It changes our relationship.
It is true. It does.
But it gives you a common goal. At least it does. I can't speak for everybody, but like my wife and I, our kind of rule was, and some parents disagree, like our kids kind of come first. Like our needs really become secondary, tertiary, maybe not even in the equation anymore. So that changes it. I think when we do get to go have date night and we do have things, we kind of make it more special and we appreciate it a little bit more.
Do you have like I guess pre-COVID, but did you have like a set date night? Was it a regular thing?
We tried to do every couple months, but again, our kids are young, so then to get a sitter who's okay with all three kids, and we know when we go out, they're not the kids that are like, oh, it's 8:30, it's bedtime. Mm-hmm. Like they want to stay up till we get home, whether that's midnight or 2. We went to a Jimmy Buffett concert one summer as a whole extended family. And, like I think the babysitter had fallen asleep and like Marshall was up like playing Mario Brothers.
That's
it's like
awesome.
2 a.m.
And he's so 4 or something.
Right, so you can never prepare for it because you don't know what personalities you're going to get. But it's work. It's work, but I can say, not sappy 100%. It's the best work I've ever done. Like being a dad's my favorite thing.
So on that note, being a non-parent, my life is, I fill my time with certain things. And obviously a lot of those things are, I guess by definition, by default, like selfish. Like they're just for me because it is just me living here. But I think to myself a lot of times, wow, like I'm pegged. Like I'm busy. I have stuff to do all the time. And some of it's luxury, but we always feel busy. Like I feel like I have the right amount of like work and the right amount of luxury. And then when kids come into the mix, it can sort of by default, like almost kind of only rob from luxury. It can't steal from work. Like you still have to do, and I'm not talking about work, like income work. That's one of the things, but laundry and doing dishes and cleaning the house and whatever. Like all these things still exist, still have to happen. When you have kids and you figure out that you can't invent more time in the day, like how do you get it all done? Like does your life change? Because the thing is, that's interesting is, to me, like you're still here every Thursday and we're still doing this together. Like you're still getting a stick in a day and those kind of, like how do you rob from Peter to pay Paul or whatever?
I'm very lucky in the fact that my wife like is very just understanding of like our times, you know, and that's why also whenever she's like, hey, the girls are doing this.
I was gonna say, and she does that too.
You know, and I can say it with 100% certainty. I do it more.
Yeah,
you know?
Of course.
But, you know, I try to build in things that we're already doing. So now that my kids are a little older, if I want to take a walk, like I'm going to, you know, my son's done with school, my oldest, before the other kids, I'm like, let's take a walk. Or when my daughter's at soccer practice, when it's my turn to take her, I walk around her little soccer field and watch her, but I'm getting my walk in.
Yeah.
So I try to do it at the same time. If I'm listening to our podcast or doing something or researching something, I try to do it while I'm doing that. So it's not finding new time, it's finding time within. But, you know, I would say that, you know, my fitness has definitely taken a toll. I was lifting a lot more, and now I'm in work, kids doing sports, this. So you're right. Sometimes it's that scale. You got to move a weight from one side to the other to balance it out.
One of my really good friends, he has 3 kids, 3 boys. 2 of them are twins, and I forget the exact ages, but I want to say the kids are like 4 or 5. 4 is the oldest boy, and then the 2 twins are a year.
Wow.
And, you know, he works full time, and he was in Olympic weightlifting ranked 6th in the country in his weight class.
Wow.
As well, like going into having kids. And I remember, you know, talking to him and you know, when he was going to have the first kid, and then certainly when the twins were coming, about that kind of give and take, because obviously that takes a lot of training. He doesn't do the training, I don't think, that he did then. But on Instagram, I mean, every day he's getting it in, and it's actually kind of cool. So like, you know, the little plastic barbell set for the kid, you know, and doing that. And he built this little pulley for like lat pull downs that he was just posting the other day. And you know, has it's 4 or 5 year old, you know, doing like lat pull downs.
That's
and
awesome.
Stuff. I think it's a funny story, because I don't know, I think what he's doing with the kids is great. And but one of the earlier times I think it was using that lat pull down thing, and the screw came out of the ceiling and like hit the kid, and he gets stitches.
No.
Terrible.
Oh my God.
Terrible. But at the same time, what I thought was awesome was fast forward a few months, and I just saw on Instagram, like, it's rebuilt, it's better, and the same kid is doing it again. And like that's
what a good life lesson
for that kid 100%. Is like, that's putting in the work.
And talking about value, like, you know, my oldest is in 4th grade, and for their, you know, even though they're virtually, they're, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up? Tell us about yourself. Like he wrote, I want to be a school psychologist like Dad. Mm-hmm. He doesn't really know what I do, but like you start to realize how your kids, like who you are in their eyes. Yeah. And you try to rise to that occasion, and obviously you fall short more than you don't. But I can totally understand that story, because I'm taking my kids. I was big in shot put and discus through high school and college.
Yeah, you were telling me about this.
And I'm taking them to our local high school. You know, I bought smaller weights, you know, for the kids and they're doing it and they're enjoying it. And I didn't want to be the dad to shove things down their throat, but
expose them.
I expose them, and now it's kind of quality time that we get to share, and I get to watch my kids do something I loved.
Well, and you shouldn't have bought a lighter weight, though, because it'd be a lot funnier to, like, so you could just talk trash at the same time, too, because your 9-year-old can't do the same shot.
So my 6-year-old, my youngest, my 6-year-old is, like, determined to, I mean, he just was born with this determination. He was a fighter, he was preemie, and that's his personality now. You know, I said, hey, buddy, we're going to bring a softball for you to throw. And he's like, no, I'm going to throw the shot that my older brother's doing. And he did.
Wow.
So, I mean, he's throwing a 6-pound shot put, and then he's 6 years old. You know what I mean? He could barely pick it up, but he was getting it.
Have you and Allie talked at all about, like, when you'll kind of, like, leave the house with just the 3 kids and leave your oldest in charge?
It's funny you say that, because although the oldest would be in charge age-wise, my daughter's the disciplinarian.
Fair,
she's the one that's like, Holden did this, Marshall did this. I'm like, it's funny, you didn't mention anything you did, you know?
Yeah.
But
have they been alone? Have you been able to do that?
I think the quickest we've ever done is like a block walk with just Allie and I while the kids were playing, or after a tub or something, and we know they're just laying down with their devices, because we kind of have rules talking about being soft and being afraid. I have this crazy fear of the kids choking, so I'm like, you can't eat anything while we're not in the house. Okay. Can't touch the stove, can't touch the microwave, can't touch the knives. Mm-hmm. You know, those are just hard and fast rules, and if you break them, you're not going to be happy.
Yeah.
So you start to see your weird neurotic things come out.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Like where Allie's like, they can't eat. I was like, no, they cannot eat. Because what happens? Well,
that's an interesting point too. Maybe that one was a big deal. Maybe it wasn't a big deal. But how do you navigate those scenarios where, like, what if Allie was just like, dude, you're being ridiculous. Let me like.
And sometimes she does, and we do that for each other, and we try to do it not like condescending or not in front of not bashing each other in front of the kids.
Of course.
Thing.
But in that scenario,
she'll be like,
you have the stricter fear. So will she? As long as it's not
right, I think
doing any psychological harm to the kids.
I think there were times where she's like, "Wow, I didn't even think of that." Like that's a good point. Not often I'm right, but sometimes. Right. But no, I think when it comes to the kids, I think as long as we have their safety, it's that balance of safety and fun. That's I think where we try to fine line. And then with Holden being a little older, I think there was a time where like Allie had to take, Marshall was in school, Josie had to go to the doctor, and I was on my way home from work, so it was going to be like 8 minutes he was home alone, and he's got his little iPod where he can text me on it, so we're always in communication.
Oh, the iPod text, I have that too.
See,
it's called an iPhone.
Yeah, it is. But his is an iPod. It's the iPod Touch.
Is that what? Do they still make those? There's an older one.
Santa gave him an older one because it was cheaper. Santa's got to watch his pennies, buddy.
Dude, so we've ridden right into the last third on this stick. We're kind of just shooting the shit and loving this stick. So the flavors have changed a lot for me now, and I'm reading here kind of what they listed out, and I'm, of course, because I'm kind of off by a third, it seems. As I'm like really getting into that last third, I'm getting some of the stuff from the second third. I feel like I'm actually getting a little bit of that licorice. Again, going back to, I have a bullshit palate, and I would have never pulled licorice out of my butt and called it licorice.
You're like,
but since they listed it,
let me read from the notes of what I taste.
Well, pretty much, no, but seriously, like since they listed it, I can like I'll call bullshit if I think it's bullshit. But no, I get that. I get what they're saying.
I'm still kind of riding that. I move between some of the little pepper, a lot of the creaminess, still that full flavor, but no harshness. I mean, well constructed, just tasty. I mean, you can tell it's a boutique, well-made cigar. It's not a...
Yeah. They're, I'm kind of like, as I'm reading what they wrote for the last third, I'm really hoping to get that at some point, because they listed cake frosting. And
how do you like?
I don't know.
Does that mean buttercream?
Buttercream. I know. Yeah, I know.
But I think it's funny you say cake frosting. Didn't I say like that confectionery sugar or something in the beginning of that second third?
Totally.
So
like
I understand what they're kind of saying. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I completely get it. And yeah, they had the toasted marshmallow listed. I definitely get that too.
Did they say anything about coconut? Because I felt like at some point I did get it.
No, Gary, that's bullshit.
I also get like an asparagus. No,
not like asparagus when you eat it, but
canned asparagus. No, but I mean, just tasty. And like I said, the last 3 or 4 new sticks that I reached in my humidor and got were great, but they were kind of steady throughout. Mm-hmm. Like no crazy changes. This I feel like really I'm seeing the flavor profile kind of jump around.
Jump around's a good way to put it, because I will say, like, kind of after we talked about the second third, and then as we were just talking about other stuff, I didn't get to interject, but what I was going to say is that the spice that I was kind of noting that had left you was dancing back and forth like pretty regularly for me. At that point, I had it, I talked about it, and then over the next 10 minutes, it definitely felt like it danced in and out. And I have this I'm getting it now.
Spice. I have a lingering spice on the back of my throat. I'm not necessarily getting it in the puff, but after the retrohale, like that spice in the back of my throat, like enjoyably.
Nice.
I don't know if
according from them, it was from black pepper to red pepper. So
Maybe that's what I'm getting. That
Might
because
be.
I would say red pepper's got more of the heat to it, right? The
Sure.
zing.
Yeah.
Now, have you heard sticks called white pepper? Have you ever
Yeah.
heard it? Like, so where do you see a differentiation between black pepper, white pepper, and red pepper?
All right. So for me, because I don't know how well I can articulate it, but I actually do have it. I have the answer to that in my head. So black peppers, obviously, it's the most common. It's what people are used to. It has to me a distinct taste to it that is like more earthy than a red pepper.
Okay.
Not as tongue spicy, but more like nose spicy almost to an extent. And then the red pepper, since I already kind of touched that a little bit, that to me, I'll say red pepper if it's more just like straight on the tongue, straight up, like a straight hit of like just pepper. Like I'll go into a red pepper for that. And then there's also another nuance that I can't articulate of that difference, but it's just kind of in the taste. I think a lot of people would know what I mean when they taste it. And then the white pepper to me, I look at as more of a mellow, like I might if I was just reviewing the stick straight up and not playing this little game where I'm pulling in what they call it,
right?
I would probably say white pepper more than any of the other two for me.
Because you're not
just
getting
for my palate.
that strength.
I'm not getting that like straight hit on the nose. I'm not getting that straight hit on the tongue. I'm getting like a steady, mellow, but like not the distinct taste of black. Like the black pepper to me, maybe that's more what it is. It's like a little bit of calm spice without a distinct extra flavor tied to it is what I would call white pepper.
And I really understand what you're saying because I forget what it was, but I remember texting you probably earlier in the week. I had a stick that was like clearing out my sinuses.
You did, yeah.
Like it was just, but enjoyably so. Almost like when you have like a good buffalo wing or a good hot wing. And it's like the flavorful spice, like your body's reacting to the spice, but man, it's just popping with flavor. That's what I was getting. But
that was the wasabi stick for me when I had that.
I haven't had that yet.
They have it at the brick and mortar by me. We got to pick a couple of those up because that's one that
it might change my mind on candelas.
It might change your mind on candelas. It really might, and it also might give you just a new perspective on how you personally define spice in a stick.
Yeah,
because it was a weird, different flavor that they nailed. But hey man, this was a fun episode. I'm glad you came over. So now we get to go break, and your boys, the quote G-men, get to play the Bird Gang, my team, the Eagles. And so Thursday Night Football. This episode won't go up for a couple of weeks. But what's interesting,
people will have known the Giants won by the time this.
I mean, I hope not, but fucking dude, maybe. Like, they get so terrible. So right now, just to put it in context, whenever anybody does get to watch this, even if it's 2 years from now and somebody sees this video, we're entering Week 7. Tonight's Thursday Night Football, the start of Week 7, and both of our teams have one win, and we're fighting for the division with the Cowboys.
This is a division game. This is gonna decide.
This is a mess. It's funny.
It's almost like King of the JVs.
King of the JVs. It's funny. But I'll tell you what, I personally, sports is just entertainment.
Yeah, 100%.
And so what I like about it, like if the Eagles are going to be as bad as the Eagles are, at least all the other teams in the division are. So it actually just creates a competitive division and makes the season fun. You were talking to me about this before. Like I'm sure Giants fans and I know Eagles fans are talking about like right now it's the hashtag tank for Trevor, but just the concept of tanking for better draft picks and this and that. And I'll just say I'm out on the idea of tanking for draft picks.
100%.
Like, let's make the season fun. Let's make it interesting. The Eagles have a ton of injuries. Play the game. Keep it interesting. Let's play game after game, get those people from injuries back, and then who knows what happens when we hit the playoffs.
I always say, like, they're not paying our salary. It just happens to be the home team we cheer for. I do think as we're sitting here smoking, though, whenever the Eagles and Giants play, we should each put up a stick. Like, if my team wins, you get this stick of mine. Nothing crazy.
We'll do it. Yeah, as soon as we stop this video, let's go do it. We'll each go pick a stick.
A little friendly wager between the Cedar Culture boys.
All right, let's do it. All right.
Now, this has been a great episode. Fantastic stick. I'm bummed only 370 were made, but I'm going to...
I have a lot more, so I have a few more.
Half full the fact that we got to have one of the 370. Yeah.
There you go. All right, so... Thanks, everybody. Again, go follow us on whatever platform of your choice. And as always, guys, long ashes.
Stay smoky. Mayor.
Thanks for checking out the Cedar Culture Podcast. If you'd like that episode, go ahead, tap, like, follow, subscribe, whatever it is on your platform of choice. And if you are on YouTube, hit that bell as well to be notified of new episodes. It really helps us out. We appreciate it.
And then don't forget to head over to Instagram and Facebook and follow us as well.
Do it.
Do it.